again to see how we felt about it, or if we wanted to go down this road, and if we do go down that road, how are we going to do it, and what's going to be the parameters of, you know, not signing checks anymore, but doing the bill payment, how we approve them and how we sign it or whatever. So anybody have any other board members have any thoughts about it or have been thinking about it?
So the process now, you know, like I get emailed a list of all the checks, the bills to be paid. I personally, other than last time I signed and John signed, but usually I don't even see those checks. All I see is the accounting for all those checks. So if we were to go bill pay, we would still have that accounting for it. We would still be able to question what's there. So I see security that way. We also had fraud where you start checking accounts over again and everything else. Besides that, the time savings of admin of actually paying the bill, you know.
That's a huge time saving.
Yeah, it's a heck of a time savings.
Yeah, and then
time is money.
And then you don't have to line up board members to come down
Yeah.
on different days to, you know, sign
Well,
checks.
now, wait a minute. How are we gonna do that though? We would just give the approval and then she would, then it would get paid direct from there.
After the board meeting, she would have to pay
She would have
unless we have some that we need to pay.
Yes.
You know,
And then
like
we come down
the
and-
PG bill and the
Yes,
phone
yes,
bill,
yeah.
those are typical ones
Yeah,
that
yeah.
should be paid.
Yeah, some of those are automatic, they just go
Automatic.
through when they go
Yeah.
through, but there's
Right.
other things that can be paid electronically, and talked with Nikki today about it. We've been trying to go down that path, and obviously in the transition things, I wouldn't say backed away from, just haven't done much of it. But moving forward, it's an easier way of doing business.
Oh,
and,
I agree. I
it's the
undoubtedly
direction
agree.
we're gonna go.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how that process gets approved,
Mhm.
but I don't think that changes. I just approved here, and then after the fact, we go through and
We-
pay the bills, but-
We actually had a vendor down in the Bay Area got our check stolen out of their mailbox. She's calling us up all irate because she never got paid. And then when we got doing the research with the bank went back through and they could see where the check was actually been washed, and we were not on the hook for any of that.
Yeah.
No dollars, no nothing. You know, they basically just put the money back in our account and we just issued a new bill payment.
Now, were you guys using single point?
No,
Oh, no,
we
you
were
had
using
Chase.
Chase. yeah.
Okay, so US Bank has a module called Single Point that's geared towards business. It's robust compared to their online banking. So what we had to start doing at KO Fab was to now print the checks. I approved of what got paid. Wendy would print the checks, and then she would now register those checks into Single Point, into their positive pay system, and then mail them. And if any of those checks got stolen and washed and tried to get used, they would be red flagged at
So-
US Bank.
You guys didn't mail them.
We mailed them out at our,
Okay. So
but they just get registered in positive pay that these numbers and these.
what we
are-
had at Chase, we just got online
Mhm.
and said, pay this vendor this much.
No, I'm talking about when we're doing checks.
Oh, okay,
not-
okay.
not
Oh,
bill
yeah,
pay.
yeah, okay, okay.
Not
Yeah.
bill pay.
What's the cost for Chase doing that?
There is no cost,
It really, no, there was
not for
nothing.
bill pay. There
Yeah.
is no cost.
For the, like, if he gets online, and has Chase send a check for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
was,
it works. It's just like doing your personal bill pay on your account, you know, it's the same thing. It's just, this is.
what do you guys do?
We do checks, but if we have the opportunity to pay online, we do.
Okay.
You might
You
want
know,
to,
some credit cards, there's some huge benefits too, so
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
But anytime we do something, it's, if we're purchasing something like capital purchase, it's got to go through a purchase order approval process, and then even the PGE bills, it gets signed by two people, and then once it's signed, pay online, we have documentation.
Yeah.
Our accounts payable people like.
Yeah.
Well, from my perspective, I've never been in the business arena like the three of you. So I think what you're bringing to the table is a lot of value. I mean, I do have with Advantage Credit Union, I pay my PGE, my Verizon bill, all that, and they don't charge me anything. And they do it, some of it, it'll show you it's electronic because that vendor's already in their system.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll be doing it by a type of check that they'll do.
Yeah.
So they do it both ways, but we do it all auto in the
Mhm.
computer. You just sign on to
Yeah.
Evanis, and that's my experience, but I would lend to say, because of embezzlement and fraud that everybody's been exposed to,
Yeah.
especially us, I think it would bring value if you guys are bringing something that worked for your business.
Yeah.
The three of you, I think we should do something like that, you know?
Another thing we do, like if it's on like a debit card or a credit card too, is, you got an initial bill with signature on it, then you got the transaction history on your actual bill from the bank or on your bank, and then we true it up at the end of the month. So,
Mhm.
I mean, you can see like every transactions for what. and
Sure.
make the cheap for that.
Yeah.
Counts.
Pretty secure.
So I think we're already going down this path of doing electronic bill pay, and we're on the right track. I don't know if we're ever gonna really get rid of checks.
No, you really can't. There's some.
No.
But we can definitely
Pieces.
limit that
Yeah.
significantly from where it is. But if there's a process that you want us to, you want to see internally different from where we're at now, then by all means, we'll go down that as far as approval and signing credit card statements and all that kind of stuff.
So I'm waiting for Mr. McAdoo to say something. So before he does, I'm gonna say inject this. So we could kind of do a combination. We could go electronic. But when the checks are, or the bills are actually tallied to be paid on the sheet, we could actually have a spot there on the right side for two board members to actually sign. That way there's some accountability that it was looked at.
You're talking about, you're talking
Yeah,
about.
like
this-
just on,
this-
just on a
this
checking
report,
statement. Yeah, just you take a statement off the right
This
side.
this report,
There's a place for two board members to put a signature,
that's what I was.
just so that did get looked at.
Yeah. 'Cause
So that,
I was talking to the chief, our board packets get scanned
yes,
and electronically filed. And if that report had two signatures on it, it
absolutely.
gets scanned.
It'd be
with the-
just like us signing two checks now, or two signatures on a check now.
Now, John, you like looking at invoices, don't you? So do I. Okay,
Really detailed.
so we would still need the invoices that we would need to review along with the report. So that we
That's-
could go through.
That's my question. I think we need to look at the invoices before they're automatically paid.
Yeah, because
So we
they've
need to
always
look
been
at 'em.
attached to the
I
check.
want to remind you people that we went through that embezzlement and this community never forgave us for that. We've never been able to get a bond measure through or nothing. And some of the things that the attorneys, special accountants and stuff told us what to watch for. They give us good standards to watch for. So that's one thing. I think if we do go this route, I don't believe in, none of my bills are automatically paid. I still write my checks, but whatever the majority wants to go, I'm okay. But I just wanted those board members.
You're
approval.
gonna see all that detail anyway. You're
Yeah.
still gonna get that.
But before they do that, I think we need to look at it before they're automatically paid.
Oh, no, 100%. Absolutely. No, absolutely. In a sense, nothing really changes other than the method of getting the vendor paid.
Yeah.
It's just different. There's not a check cut here, put in the mail. It's
understand.
approved for the bank to actually pay.
Yes. I
So-
understand.
But what we want to look at still remains the same.
Yeah,
We're just not
absolutely.
We're not
And-
signing the check.
And I do like the idea of having a place for two board member signatures beside each one on the list to be paid. That just means that they got looked at and there's accountability there.
You're not talking at every transaction, you just want the whole report. to be
I
signed.
think it needs to be every transaction. I have not yet seen a bill not get paid. I think it was you one time that you had an issue with paying a bill and you voted to pay the bills except for that one.
That was,
So,
when Fred starts.
Yeah, so I think that it needs to be on every single one. And Nikki, that shouldn't be too hard to generate, should it? Through a Word
And we can
document or
even
something?
do initials by each one.
Yeah.
And then a signature at the bottom.
Okay.
of
That's
think
what
that's
was
better,
thinking,
yes.
yeah.
the-
Yep,
and
that
then
works.
Yeah.
I would compile the invoices with all of.
Yep,
that.
just like, yeah, yeah,
It would be this report, basically.
yeah.
Most of it would be bill pays and there'd be some checks and, you know, we just go through the same
Okay,
system.
so I think there's been lots of healthy discussion. I think one of the things that I'm gonna do, if everybody's in agreement, I'm gonna put this on next month's agenda item to give some official direction to the chief and his staff.
Do we need to create a written policy? on how
Well,
we
that's
do
just,
this?
I was gonna say that.
I
I
think
think
we
there's a
need to.
policy that already exists, so I'm gonna have to dig that
Yeah.
up, and then we'd have to
Right.
adjust that.
Well,
Yeah.
right, and we can't give you any direction in this meeting.
Well-
This is just discussion.
And we can't get rid of that policy either, because that policy still goes for any checks that we do write,
Sure.
are just gonna continue, we're still gonna write some.
Have to
Right, it's
modify
just
the-
So we're just
be-
modify that
modify
modify the
document
policy,
to
yeah,
online bill pay type stuff.
'cause I'm not sure.
It's kind of separate, but it's the same thing. Credit cards. How many people have credit cards at the fire station?
Myself, Chief Smith, Chief Lashbrook. I believe the lieutenants have a card also. Their credit limits.
I think it was last one.
Cheryl has one, right?
There were some charges on there. It was just a credit card fee. Are you reconciling and approving all the transactions?
Yeah, so for anything that we buy, for anything here, requires a purchase order. So that's where it starts. If it's under $1,500, then Chief Smith can approve it. If it's under $100, the lieutenant can approve it. So there's some thresholds there. And we're actually gonna adjust some of that because we're doing POs for paying PG and whatnot. And I really don't need a purchase order for that, you know, that sort of stuff. But with that, the invoice or receipt has to be attached. They have to be received. Packing slips got to go with that. So there's an internal process. I've got a SOP on that as far as how that works and what that looks like. So that just applies to the credit card. So if you buy something with the credit card, you can spend $5 on something. It still requires a purchase. Just it's labeled Visa and then whatever vendor it was that we used it on. So that's our internal process there. From there, you guys get it, and then you'll have the credit card statement, and then you should be getting all the invoices and the packages that go with it.
Cool. All right, so we'll have that on next month's agenda. And then we're going along to board priorities for 22 to 23. Chief O'Connor.
So I gave you guys handouts. The budget calendar is on there. I think our last workshop, we talked about the budget calendar. We just didn't have some dates that were finalized on it, so you have that. Packet. And that's just for your reference as far as what we're doing. What the budget committee needs and whatnot.
So these are all written in stone then?
These are in stone, yes.
Okay.
This is what it is. The budget consideration forms, staff have those are due back no later than the 17th. And then, from there, we'll probably be into building the budget. We're already into creating the budget documents, so we're on our way. Just whatever comes back, if anything, we can adjust as we need to. And by the 7th, we should be done with that internally, and we can get that out to the public. You guys will see it at the March board meeting, April board meeting. You'll probably see it before then by email, if nothing else, but we'll keep you in the loop as we go, and more to come. But as far as budget priorities, I was looking for budget priorities from the board based on our last work session. And what I took out of that meeting was that we wanted to continued maintenance improvement of the George Station, which included a generator replacement and bathroom remodel is what we were looking for. We wanted to refund our capital replacement improvement fund at $500,000. The previous was $474,200 is what we had taken out of the prior accounts, which we'll be able to do that. We wanted to reapply for the seismic upgrade grant
For George.
for George.
For George, okay.
And then continue to pursue FEMA AFG and safer grant funding for capital items. And that seemed like a a pretty reasonable list for board priorities to move forward in the budget.
So. So don't we have all the money in one account? Like before, we used to have it segregated, like apparatus replacement, on the schedule. And then now it's all in one pot. Do we still maintain an Excel sheet dictating where every dollar belongs?
Right, so that's your budget document that's gonna tell you what goes
Okay.
where, so. When I came here, you guys have 7 accounts, I think, which is,
Right.
My understanding is that's poor accounting practice for a fire district. You're supposed
Okay.
to have a maximum of 3, and which is where we sit right now with LGIP checking and payroll. So we're there. So
Okay.
as far as the capital replacement and the 500,000 that we have there, it's gonna become a line item in the budget that is
Excellent.
for future capital.
That way it's earmarked.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's allocated, it's budgeted, it's there, it's just we maintain that. Account that we have.
So it stays in general checking,
It will stay in LGIP.
LGIP, so.
That's where we're collecting our interest.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
Yep.
getting good interest right now with all that money.
We got a lot of money
Oh,
sitting there,
man.
so yeah, we're doing really well.
Mhm.
And
I
rates
don't
are going
know.
up, so.
Well, my Voya account from December to, I just got a notice, I've lost like 13,500 from my 401k deferred comp. It's already lost that much.
You should have retired then.
Yeah,
Jesus.
can't really, you got to work longer now, buddy.
Yeah.
Really don't lose it. You cash it.
Yeah, that's it.
It'll come back.
That's what they say.
The only thing is, it doesn't
The
come
link
back
here is
because
right
you
there.
lose
Back.
any future interest on that, what the dollars went down.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
stinks. Yeah.
No, it's just complete loss.
Hey, I don't want to see Matthew start crying. Let's not talk about that.
No, it's like they showed me what I had in my account December and then what I have today. And it's that much less.
You can, you should be able to move that into a safer fund for a while.
Well, a while ago, I did move like
Yeah.
200 into a safe thing, but it's still,
Yeah.
it only gets like 2%,
I know.
that amount, but the rest of it, it's all in variable,
Mhm.
and I'm losing.
I know we've had this discussion about coming up with a reserve account or capital investment account or whatever for of a new firehouse. Has that gone anywhere? Are we gonna do anything in this budget for that?
As far as capital replacement funding,
Yes.
so the money we would put aside, so the 500,000 we would put aside.
Okay.
That's there for capital improvement down the road, whether it be a fire engine, SCBA's, thermal
So-
imaging, or a fire station.
I
It's just,
need some clarification. When we close those accounts down, John, you need to listen to this. When we close those reserve accounts down, I thought that we had to reinstate those. We don't. Okay. And you're 100% sure of that.
you can make them line items if you like within the budget, but as
Okay.
far as their own accounts in a checking account, savings account somewhere, that's what
Okay.
you want to stay away from.
So,
Okay.
and I think that's the important part, at least that I got from the whole group, is
Yeah.
that we're going to have a line item
Yes.
for station replacement, whether it's a substation or the replacement
Yeah,
of this
yeah,
station.
yeah.
So when we go through the budget process, that's something that we need to ensure
Yeah.
that's put there as a line item
Yeah.
and decide how much on this next budget cycle are we going to allocate?
Yeah.
So like if we have our capital improvement plan savings, 500,000. The next year we want to spend 200,000 for air packs, SCBA. Then the next year we would have a line item in the capital fund, $200,000 for air packs. And you would take that out of that capital replacement fund. So it's all paperwork.
Yeah.
Line items. As far as money sitting in the accounts, is money in the account.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but we do need to have that line.
Right.
Yeah.
So, which brings up that we need to replace all that money we took out this next budget year.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we should be able to add to it. On
Yeah,
top
we
of
talked
what-
about that.
Right. Were there any other budget priorities anybody was thinking of for our upcoming budget, or is that looking good?
No, I think that was. the
I'm
big one.
thinking the station replacement or substation, we need to start allocating some money.
Yeah.
I think that's a priority
I
in
think that's-
addition to remaking the line items for capital, replacement of apparatus and so on. We need to start replenishing that.
Yeah, yeah. To me, I personally, and you guys, we all would have a different opinion, but for me, with the growth that we've had in the last 2 years of basically 25%, stations are, to me, is a fairly good size liability. We have the guys or the people, we have the equipment, we don't have room to sleep everybody, so that's gonna be our limiting factor.
I
So-
agree with that, Paul. I think it needs to be the priority and the George station kind of secondary. The main station and another station.
So
needs to be the priority, I believe.
bathroom remodel at George, I believe this is the first time I've heard that. What is the issue up there?
There's some water damage. Sheet rock needs to be replaced. It's getting rough.
Okay.
It's not terrible, but
So it's not a complete, is it a maintenance issue or is it a complete remodel?
it's probably an overhaul, but it's not a very big bathroom either, so. I don't think
Okay.
it's a big expense.
Okay.
You guys ever have meetings at the George station? We used to.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Yeah,
I
we'd have
remember.
one a year.
And nobody would show up. We used to have an annual barbecue up there trying to get the people remotivated, and the only ones that show up would be old volunteers.
Yep.
Yeah.
I went,
Too old to volunteer anymore.
I went to one up there. You guys had it out in the bay.
Nice to do that. Just to,
Yeah, I wouldn't have that far to, I wouldn't have that far to drive.
You can walk.
I can walk, yeah.
We did that for quite a gosh, 10, 15 years. Nobody show up.
Yeah.
Board meeting.
We even advertised.
Yeah.
Someone was talking to me the other day. That didn't really answer. And I thought the fire station was bothered, or maybe it was up on spring water where it almost comes in Highway 211.
Yep.
Yeah.
We had an acre, and we rented it to the county to keep their gravel.
So was that the fire district's or was that?
No, ours.
And it's gone.
But we
We sold it.
We sold it.
Sold all.
Wasn't- We were never gonna use it. We had it since the 70s.
We had another one up.
Point your finger at me, but that was something I worked on for years to sell it.
Kent, we had a property up on. Kent.
Divers, wasn't it divers?
Yeah.
Kemp and Divers, yeah.
Yeah, Camp and
Property
Divers,
up
yeah.
there, we had a property.
And
on Spring
really,
Water.
the growth didn't go there. So we were sitting on, like, we're going this direction north, and so.
That property in Springwater. Right there in the curve of Springwater, and God, I can't remember that street. But we would never use that, we would have never used that. You got Colton over there, Elwood Station,
Yeah.
and it was a half acre. We had to put an above ground septic system in there, because there wasn't room for septic.
Obviously, if we still want to, if someone contribute that to the fund.
They said it wasn't worth anything, we wouldn't get anything out of it, we got $60,000.
Get a lot more for it today.
Yeah.
So kind of moving on then into our capital replacement, that we're already kind of talking about that. There, you have the an updated replacement plan schedule. Put that in your handouts. And there is a resolution from 2009, 2010, as far as what that's going to look like, what qualifies. And then the back 2 pages are pretty much our capital items for the most part. I'm missing some of the smaller items that we have around here, but you'll get the idea. But all our larger apparatus, like our pickups, our engines, our tenders are listed on there with the replacement year and estimated or anticipated costs. And we're really not looking at any big capital replacement items as far as apparatus goes until we do a tender in 2033, and that'll hit the 30-year mark at that point. We got the smaller staff vehicles and whatnot that we're extending some life on. We think we can get some more life out of them before we have to worry about replacing those. But the big stuff, we're looking a ways down the road. There's nothing in the immediate future. The engines are in good shape. They're like 2010 and 2015. We've got a new Type 3 coming. We'll be ordering a water tender. We've got the Type 6 brush engine that we're getting. We're looking really good as far as all that goes. I don't see us having to go out and try to buy a new fire engine next year, year after, anything like that.
Question about this. From a depreciation standpoint, like, for a business like this, would probably be real. Have the option to depreciate on different schedules. Be great. Because there's less tax. Why does it matter for a fire station? if they're not on depreciation?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like a business, you're getting, you might have, okay, I'm getting a bonus depreciation this year if I buy a truck, I can write it off all in 1 year. I'm gonna buy a residential house, so it's 27, 25 depreciation, so I just don't know why. What the purpose of it.
I think it's
I
just an
think-
accountability thing is what I think it is.
I think it goes with NFPA.
Yeah.
They got recommendations when you replace equipment, especially engines, water tenders, and that sort of thing. And I think this is where the schedule is put together.
It's
So
like,
I'm not sure where this one came from. I'm guessing that's something that you guys had put together
Yeah, it looks
previously.
familiar.
Is this a new thing? This one, this report here?
This one is just updated with what we currently
Okay.
have in stock.
Because
Because I've been, I mean, other departments I've been a part of, they have completely different schedules. And it all basically depends on how much money they're taking into capital replacement. Some have been more aggressive and do it much sooner. Other ones are just dragging it on as long as they can because they're, you know, for it.
so this,
So-
this 6th item down's called a Pierce water tender, but I think that's an E1 water tender, isn't it? Is that the one, the combination engine water tender that's up at George? We had up at George for years.
That's an international. That one was up at George.
Oh, it
The
is.
combination was an international.
But it's a E1 was the
Yeah,
brand name.
I think you know.
You know,
So what's this
yeah.
Pierce water tender? What is that?
That, okay.
Well, you got the
I-
Freightliner, you got the Piers.
Well,
The
the
big
Pierce,
one's the Pierce, upper tender.
but that's down here
how
with
it's
Pierce,
classified.
the 2 Pierce type
Yeah,
So
that's
one.
right. I think
I-
that's a typo on my part.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm convinced that that one is the international because we talked about sending it
That's
to
E1.
Elwood and it says
So
to
that's the,
Elwood.
that's
Yeah, because the
E1.
original schedule I looked at had them listed differently. They
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah,
Quite match up.
Okay,
we should probably change
I
that.
didn't think we had 3 Pierce items, but
So if we were gonna go for a grant for vehicles, would they look at a depreciation?
They do look at that. So like when you're looking for a new water tender, your newest tender has to be at least 30 years old. So a lot of the smaller departments benefit from that. Estacada may or may not, but where you have a couple of them and you're trying to replace them by that 30-year mark already, you may never qualify for an AFG grant for that. AFG is really hard to get apparatus on. They have about $400 million in funding there. Only a portion of that goes to apparatus and they get over $2 billion in requests for that. So your chances of scoring that are just really slim. Same with the engines. Engines got to be, your newest one has to be 25 years or older before they'll consider it. Otherwise, it doesn't even make it to peer review.
I mean, I believe there's an NFPA that dictates how often you have to change the tires on like water tenders and engines. It's like 10 years.
Actually, I don't know if that's even
Less
NFPA. I think that's just a mechanical.
Is that a recommendation from mechanic?
yeah.
Because the tires never wear out, the time does.
They dropped it to 7 years and we were changing every 10 years and not having any problems.
Yeah.
And then they dropped it to 7 and boy, that just a waste of taxpayer. You're throwing in good
Nothing-
tires. away
nothing-
with
nothing
90%
wears out.
good.
Gets old, it doesn't
Yeah.
wear out.
Yeah, we don't put
Ages
miles on, we put hours on.
Yep.
That's really what it comes down to.
I agreed with 10 years when they dropped it to 7.
What is it, still 7?
I think
It's 7.
Yeah, really? Yeah.
It could be an NFPA thing as well, but I'm pretty sure that came back to tire manufacturer recommendation.
Oh.
You remember on that one?
I think it's under 19, NFPA 1911, under all apparatus. I have the document, I can look it up. Switch that if you want to.
But at the end of the day, NFPA is nothing but a recommendation. Our chief
Recommendation.
executive officer, you, the chief, makes the final decision on, you know, but it's important that we're itemizing it here and proposing that we know that it could wear out by this year and we need to make sure we have the money for replacement.
Right,
Exactly.
right. And I think that's the whole point of this is that we're trying to plan for replacement. We have something to shoot for. Otherwise, we're just oh, I think we should replace an engine this year. That's just not the way to do it.
Right.
We've got to be something that we react. That's what we're trying to accomplish, but where everything here is relatively, I won't say new, but relatively new, we're sitting in a good spot.
Well, to self-justify the public
Right.
that we're following some sort of schedule for replacing our apparatus.
Anyhow, that was on there. That was the big stuff. The second page was a lot of the smaller items. And we have 4 gas monitors on there that we just got a grant for. That's not something we're gonna have to replace for 10 years. Lucas CPR device, it's got time. Our cardiac monitors, we're buying new off of this grant, but we are gonna have to do an upgrade with those, I believe, in 4 years. And there's something we're gonna have to trade in, and then we get so much back for it, so we will have to front some money there, but it's not like we're buying brand new ones at that point either. But that's 3 or 4 years down the road still. The SCBA compressor has kind of been a topic lately about whether or not that needs to be replaced. Myself and Chief Smith were talking about it over dinner, and there seems to be some thought that that needs to go sooner than later, and we're thinking we've got a lot more life on that than what.
Yeah, I mean,
I think so.
I brought it up one time and I just seen it on the replacement schedule coming up, and that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, it was listed here as in 20 years, which puts it at 2026, but I'm not convinced that's accurate. I think it's got a 30-year lifespan, but. we have to dig
I
into
think
that
so.
some more.
Yeah.
Thermal imagers, that is one thing we don't have grant money for, and that's something we got to replace. The ones that we have, they're done. You turn them on and a minute later, they're dead. They're pretty
Well,
much
we've
useless.
had them for a long time.
Yeah, I think they're,
Yeah, 05 or 6, 17 years old.
yeah, they're beyond their 10-year lifespan, which I think is what they're calling for now, but they've also gone down significantly in price too. So the original cost was 10,000, but I'm thinking they're going more like 5 or 6 now. They used to be a real big ticket item, 25 grand a piece or something, but they're not even close to that anymore. So I don't think that's gonna be as big of an expense as it used to be.
We used to put a hand on it, touch it.
Then you could open the door, huh?
Your ears will get warm and it was.
It's time, yeah.
The fire.
I'm amazed that we only have one set of extraction tools.
Well, I put one. We have multiple tools, so
Okay.
typically they're a set. We have a set. I want to say a set plus. So this isn't really itemized out, but
Yeah, okay.
yeah. So it's something that they're still relatively new. I think 2019 is their age, so they got
Yeah.
some life. I think we asked for some grant money to get some more, so we could be outfitted a little better from where we are, and that's something we'll continue to pursue. MDCs, we're doing that off of grants, so that we're gonna have a bunch that are coming up. The problem with all these grants are that we're doing it all at once. So down the road, 10 years from now, we're gonna have some big expenses, so that keep pushing money away for that kind of stuff is gonna be important. Desktop workstations, that's something we need to start in, looking at 2 or 3 a year, probably starting this next year. And then we're talking computers. And then those are pretty much on a 5-year cycle per workstation from there. So we'll actually be in a better cycle from where we are now with everything else. Mobile radios, portable radios, those are bigger ticket items as a group. They're kind of a shot in the dark as far as what it's going to cost. That technology is changing so fast and on a regular, it seems like, so a little harder to keep up.
Those are expensive. aren't they?
Yeah, they're not 800 radios and 800/VHFs, everything in between. I'm not a radio guy. I just know I want it to work, and I ask the people who know something about it. Saws, we're buying a bunch of saws now. Again, 10 years down the road. SCBA, we already own some. We're buying some. I'll probably look to buy some more this next time around, but that's going to at least put us into a better cycle to probably look at replacing in thirds when their lifespan comes up instead of all at once, which is a much better way to go.
So you'd have to stick with the same brand
Yes and no.
to do that.
Yes and no. My previous employer, we almost were gonna go down that path, and then all of a sudden we got a big chunk of money that we were able to replace the whole thing, but
Oh.
we looked at doing that and how that would work, and it was reasonable. It was something we could accomplish. And then turnouts and PPE, we're buying a whole lot of it now. Same thing, we're gonna have to start into some kind of a cycle where we're buying so much every other year. Otherwise, we're gonna be caught at the end having to replace a whole lot of PPE. And, trying to figure out how to cycle through these things where we're getting all this up front. Still a thought in my head on how to make that work best. I don't want to get rid of things that are still good, but at the same time. So with that, I guess we get into buildings. We have this station here, we have the workstation. And that's kind of been a big topic as far as, do we build a new headquarters, do we build a substation, do we need to do any of the above? But if we were gonna do another station, is this the right place? That's been the big question. And you'll see the map on the wall behind John there. And it's full of green dots and blue dots and yellow dots and red dots. And all those green dots meet a certain time frame. And going out from there. So I think 0 to 4 minutes is the green, and then on down the line. I'm gonna let Chief Smith jump in here because this has been his project for a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a lot of work into this, and it's a great visual as far as where our calls are.
You got your little laser pointer?
No, I don't.
Oh, man.
So you'll notice most of the green dots happen to be right in our city boundary, and I created special response districts. And there's 4 right here in the city, northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. And most of your calls are concentrated right here in the southwest, right where the station is. You notice as we go up north into our urban growth boundaries, we're still meeting that 4-minute mark. The blues are 6 minutes. Yellows that you see up here, these are 8 minutes, and then reds are up to 10 minutes. They're pretty scattered throughout the district right here. But you can see most of the concentration where most of the calls are occurring are right here, right next to the station. So you hit your target. Let's see. I made a little note today because it was kind of interesting that where we're getting hit for this is an outlook for 3 months, November through January 31st. So it's a 3-month look. And I noticed there's little groups of responses. And number one, I think it's 525 6th Avenue. I think that's a care home. Elderly care. Yeah, that's been most of the calls that we got hit within those 3 months. And second line is right here at the fire station. Walk-ins. Yeah.
Famous for walking.
Yep.
So do we need to be tracking where those people are walking in from?
I think so. I think so. If they're from out of town, we should pick them out.
Yeah, we're kind of skewing our numbers there. maybe.
It's
Other
not
than that-
uncommon for, at least when I was volunteer here, it's not uncommon when somebody's having a problem to throw them in the vehicle and drive them down to the fire station.
They know where to go,
Right.
familiar face,
Right.
a place for them. Other than that, there's a few other calls that created 6, 7 calls at the same location. So, these are some of the residents that just have more long-term care. We're getting more involved with them. I think it's, the chances are as we grow and you get elderly people living up here in our growth boundary, we can get more and more calls up there. But most of your calls are concentrated right here, and we're making all the time limits. I want that 4 to 6 minute. We're making those right in this area. So it
It's
tells us something.
interesting because that's been that way for 30 years or more.
Right.
I call them right there.
So did you have a percentage of walk-ins?
Just for that 3-month look, I can tell on our reporting system that 12 will occur.
Just 12.
Just 12.
Well, there was one today, right? When I drove it.
Yep. It was a seizure, I think it was.
And you'll get walk-ins.
Yeah.
Now, what's gonna be kind of interesting is with this road closure, what does that mean for the responses of the 224?
They're saying that's opening the door.
Yeah.
Maybe not the opening,
We'll have to take a look at that.
Just for access to the river.
all the way up, you could drive.
Just to Ripplebrook is my understanding.
Right.
That's ODOT's part.
Yeah.
And then from that it's fed.
So it'll be closed beyond because they're
Yeah.
still following up.
We don't know if that's good.
I went for a ride last week with the foresters.
Is it an eye opener?
A lot of them looked like before, so.
We always said we were gonna go, we never did.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in your rig
Yeah.
and just bullshit right through the guard shack.
Yeah, I mean, actually, if you wanted to come down, we could take a ride up.
Yeah,
I would really,
I'd like to
really
do
love
that.
that.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that too.
Well, we need to schedule a time with you.
Well, I had a chance to go up as far as I wanted to drive, and I was like, it's incredible.
Yep.
Yeah, it's bad.
Ripplebrook, it's not bad.
I saw a video that Moffett did where they were repairing a cable that the tree burned and the root burned your conduit or some sort of a thing, and he went up river with ODOT and to do the repair or something.
Well, they've been falling trees too. We have a fire that's underground. Limbs are going through the spike.
Oh, really?
They're still dropping rock. I saw a video on social media.
He went up there and dug it and replaced it.
So you can see it's kind of scattered throughout the whole district pretty evenly. There's no one area. This is pretty rare to go up here in the Iowa area. I don't know, you might want to pay attention to what's going on here, you know. These are long response times, you know, our need crews going out for responding anywhere from 10 to 16, 18 minutes, you know, and they're not here. So we're going to secondary crews come in and cover the station while we're out.
I expected to see a lot more to the north of where the green blob is.
Yeah.
I also thought that the response time would actually be extended the farther north we got. It really didn't stretch out that much. That whole north end is still pretty set. We fall into two different categories as far as an NFPA standard goes. There's NFPA 10 for a combination department. And I believe that requires 15 people to assemble within 8 minutes, 90% of the time. But the rest of the district is a rural, 1720, and it's 8 people. Based on that, I'm looking at their city, I'm thinking we need the time spot right now.
That's good.
A matter of making.
I never thought of that concept. I've always looked at it as response time up in the George Porter or whatever. Never thought about the time for the firefighter to be away from the station to go and have a call.
Yeah, if it's 10 minutes to get there, then it's at least 10 minutes to get back. So that's 20 minutes out of service without any patient interaction, or fire interaction.
So Alan and I are hitting a lot of secondary calls, those little medicals that pop in.
Yeah. Anyway, that's an excellent visual for you guys. We'll find out for a while.
We have no call data at all. In fact, it's one of the at all.
Iowa. No, it would be even worse. And you know, man, think at that station.
They don't man Hardy.
The 12, station 12.
I had
It's
us.
not Hardy.
It's not.
And you look.
No, we're not.
Hardy.
Hardy Road is
Station 12.
We've got,
Oh, that old bowling, that was,
yeah.
what's his name was, a student there.
They put students there when they have it.
Within this time frame that I kind of looked at, I saw water tenders and a couple mutual aid engine responses. And it'd be like way up here on the map for Atlas and Sandy and Jennifer's. But for the most part, we're hoping down.
Been there a couple times, but.
What they thought was gonna
That's
happen.
good to see.
Yeah, our data and their data are on that.
Well, and it's good that, you know, we're able to do what we need to do. Take care of business.
Yeah, I hope that keeps up.
I think I'm good.
Don, there's some coffee over there. You want some?
Yeah. I didn't
I'll
think-
grab you a cup.
Yeah,
You just want it black?
Yeah. I come in there, but I got trouble.
They were on a call, John. John, they had a walk-in, so
Oh,
give him a break, okay?
I started into it, but I didn't get that far.
I'll take it back. I bet it's not like that. I have before.
In fact, they interrupted their dinner to go take care of the walk-in.
They were making comment of it too, that they were ready to eat, like something's gonna happen.
And it did.
Yeah.
That's for
Thank
sure.
you.
Always
That
stuff.
update right along.
That's it.
That was, Mike.
Well,
I think that's good to see a couple times a year.
So that map, we're gonna continue to update that until we get a full year on it. So this time next year, we'll see what that looks like.
Mhm.
'Cause right now, it's basically a quarter. But I don't think it's gonna change much for the city core, but the district's gonna look different. I think we'll see more.
So-
I mean,
different places.
And I think in the core area, the call volume is going to go up, right? We have a lot of younger people going into the subdivisions that are popping up. And those are going to become elderly, 20 years down the road. And so planning, I mean, we already know we don't have enough beds for our volunteers. And so, I mean, right now, I think we need to figure out what we're doing, like what Director Miller said. We need some sort of an option, because if we have all these folks volunteering and they want to pull shifts and so on, this is a good thing, and we should be planning around that.
How many can we sleep at George?
3,
Three, and that's it. There's nothing that can be done there.
unless they want to sleep out in the chairs, and which they typically don't, they'll usually come down here and sleep.
So what is our total sleeping capacity here and there?
We could do 5 down here, we could do 2 back here in the house.
5 down here, that's it.
That's it. So if we have all 3 staff on, plus our 2
10
students, we're
10
pretty much
total.
maxed out.
Yeah,
But it's not uncommon for volunteers to crash out in the recliner if they're gonna stay all night.
yeah.
Most of them don't like to stay back here in the house if they can help it, because they're too disconnected.
Well, it's haunted too.
Well, I've stayed in there, but I've heard that, but I haven't found anything yet. So, yeah, I mean, we're at capacity. There's just not a lot of good options, we've talked about, well, what if we did something else out here? But again, you're getting disconnected from the station. So without having some extension, remodel or whatever to somehow accommodate that.
Do you have a gut feel for how long you think we can continue doing it with what we got?
Right now, we're there. We're pretty much maxed out. It's hard to say, nothing's gonna stop growing. The call volume is not gonna decrease.
Yeah.
It's actually, I think with the highway opening up, I think we're gonna see an increase in call volume. We have great volunteer enthusiasm. I mean, we're going through applications right now, and it's just amazing to me how many people are applying and are excited about coming in here. So we want to maintain that. And we'll be able to do that to a certain extent, but I think the comment was made at the last meeting, we'll keep taking as many volunteers as we want to take on. But the problem is it's financially, you got to buy turnouts, you got to train them, and then we got to have overhead on top of it to manage it.
And if they don't get the action, they may not stick around.
Well, there's always that too, but I think we have the action. I think our training program is still in the upswing, and those 2 things are going to keep people interested. It's all working really well, but we got to be able to maintain that, and to do it, we got to have the infrastructure and the logistics side of things. So it's not an easy one to figure out. Right now, what I'm trying to figure out is how many volunteers should we have. There's a formula out there. I've come across it, and I'm trying to find it again. I was hoping to have it before tonight that tells you how many volunteers you should have for a district of your size. So I'm still trying to find where I have that. I want to say it was through the National Volunteer Fire Council, but running into dead ends. But I'll find it eventually and be able to come back and say, we're supposed to have 50 volunteers or 150 or whatever it is.
Years ago, we set a limit, a max of 50, and that had to be 35, 40 years ago. We never quite, we got 42 or something like that.
They're close.
That the board one time set a goal of 50 volunteers.
Right, and if you end up with some extras, then that was okay.
Yeah, if we hit 50, we're going for 75.
Yeah, right now it's almost more logistical issues that are out of our hands. We're trying to order turnouts and can't get them.
Yeah.
We got turnouts showing up now that we ordered in June.
Yeah.
We're doing this rental thing, which I absolutely hate, because we're having to pay for those when it's turnouts we could buy instead.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And so we're at the mercy to some extent that way. There's only so many seats on the apparatus. There's only so much locker space, that we're running into all those issues. And these are problems a lot of places want to have. And so I'm glad to be tackling this instead of the other way where you can't get anybody coming the door.
It's exciting to be able to empty the station on a call.
It's
On a
one of the
fire,
neater things that
yeah.
I've done here, be a part of, is we do have a fire and everything leaves.
Mhm.
And
It's
there's
been
people on the
years,
rigs.
since that was happening.
So it's really neat to see, and we want to maintain that, of course. So we're in a good spot. It's just down the road. Can we keep that? That's the next question. But as far as capacity goes for the station, I don't know how we would ever remodel it to add dorm space. We're busting.
I thought you could-
storage. I mean,
Wasn't the station originally built that it could have a second floor?
Yeah, but
I
you're
don't
not,
think it passes.
you're not
The
gonna
problem
do
is the
today.
seismic,
Yeah, you're not
back
gonna get it.
then seismic, it was built to, even though it had the seismic upgrade, does not mean that would qualify to throw another floor.
Take a lot of
Yeah,
steel to
years
make
ago,
it,
the
make it work.
footings and everything was designed for
Yeah.
put on a second floor. So
mean, it could be done, it's just whether
You could
it's
go out the
cost.
back.
Yeah.
You know, you could have some out the back.
So looking at that data there, I'm just gonna say this because we're spitballing. If we look at that data there, it looks like this location for this time is the right location.
Based on that, yeah.
So if we had to do something, you know, we use the modular concept of we build this, this is what we need, but we make sure that it's modular to be as far as location and everything else on property we have to add truck bays or whatever. See what I'm saying? Say that just for grins that we decided we're gonna do something over there eventually. So the first thing we'd start off with would be, even though we'd have the concept of being separated, but I guess we sweat equity a new firehouse. We build what we need for sleeping and stuff, and maybe just 1 or 2 bays to put a truck over there. So that you do have a crew with a truck, but make it modular to where you could take a wall off and add whatever bays you need or whatever offices or whatever.
Future
Don't,
growth.
yeah, do not build yourself into a corner, you know, design something that has diversity for what you're gonna need in that 15, 20 years from now.
And there's a lot of departments that have done that, where they built stations with the intent that they were gonna add bays, they were gonna add
Yeah.
quarters, they were gonna add offices. So that's not a new concept, and
Yeah.
it's something that that'd be the way to go here.
Yeah.
And you could do it incrementally, but you're still looking at a big chunk of change even just to
Oh,
get started.
No,
with
no,
that.
I agree with that.
So,
We even looked at one time going out this way, adding on, and going that way. And you can build your administrative building across. the
Oh, that's a
street.
great idea.
No, I think that it all needs to be in one building someday.
Well, someday, yeah.
Admin, everything. all
We
one
had
place.
plans at one point to take over the road and build a station back here, and then that would be abandoned and just, and tore down.
Didn't you have issue, chief, with it not actually being on the highway?
the station?
Yes.
No, we're already off the highway anyhow. I think something else we would have to do, I think we're required to do it if we did any kind of improvement here, we would have to do a highway light.
Yes,
And that's a big chunk of change in itself.
yeah.
Yeah.
In all reality, we should have one now.
We should have one now, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, we would, I think we're in the right spot based on this information as far as where we should put a new building if we're going to. We've got the property here. This is all part of the. What's
Urban
it
growth.
called? Urban
Urban
growth?
growth. Found-
Yeah.
No, no,
Not urban
How
growth.
about Earth and Road?
no. Geez.
It's escaping me too.
Urban
But it's
renewal.
Urban renewal.
Yeah.
It's part of the urban renewal is how we got the property, and talking to the city, if we decide to build, there's the option to vacate the street. And then there's something to do with utilities and improvements that go there as well, that the city has to provide as part of that deal. We'd be responsible for putting up the building is what it comes down to.
Yeah, they were gonna waive the SDC charges and all that. We brokered that. I
Right.
was on the
Only-
board at that
The
time.
only issue is having to pay the prevailing wage. I mean, I was talking to Pat, the plumber, he's saying he's having to pay $80 an hour for his plumbers for prevailing wage right now.
Yeah, the stations I looked up, I was trying to look just in Oregon and substations, 2 bays with a couple of dorms in it, maybe an office, you're looking at $6 million. You look at a new station, you're 12 to 13 million. And there's departments out there that have the money intended to start and they're going, yeah, we're gonna wait because it's just too much.
Remember when our bond measure was 5
Yeah,
mil, and
yeah.
we were gonna get a nice station?
Yeah,
People won't have nothing to do with it.
yeah. That's $5 million station now is about 10 million.
But the only
Yeah.
thing is, though, I feel a little bit fortunate we didn't do that. And the reason why is because it wasn't taken into consideration, the growth we've had in the last 2 years of 25% in our district.
Well, the new station did.
Oh, it did?
Oh, yeah, it had quarters
Oh,
where you could house a lot of people, and the bays we could
Yeah.
fill. And we even had a couple extra bays for future apparatus, so it was.
Yeah.
It was well thought out, but the people kept saying, no, if somebody can embezzle 3 to.
1.6 mil, just
Yeah, but they
FYI.
thought it could have been a
Yeah.
sec-
Right.
I know.
It was a nice building. Maybe that's one thing. too, going forward, is trying to build it.
Yeah.
Right. Right. We hired an architect that did this grandiose, like, look, and maybe that was part of it.
That was too big, I think.
I think that we ought to have Mike Platts mess around a little bit with drawing something up, a concept. For different concepts.
In the future, yeah.
I honestly believe we need to look at going that way, and what could we do? You know, add on to that and kind of come this way. What would the cost effective is this, still use part of that,
Well,
come out this way, you'd have more dormitories, you could even keep your office.
remember, this is modular. We can move this building right across the
That's
street.
right, that's what I'm saying, put it in
Yeah.
a place over there.
You could also build a building on that one, 3 times the size of that.
Yeah, I think that's,
I mean, you
that's
could
your
have
best
3 of them.
option.
And I think
And then-
all under
and then
one
you have
roof.
This here, and then if you need more growth, you add apparatus space over here. From here. Got a ton of room.
Well, and I don't see any reason with, you know, if we were to do admin in one end of the firehouse, say 2 stories, have it have some architecture and stuff. But where the trucks are parked, why can't that be metal buildings like we have in the industrial park?
It probably should be.
I mean, that's most cost effective, the easiest to add on to. Seismic stuff is really easy because it's not brick and mortar, but don't they have something, for some reason they like fire departments to be brick
No,
and mortar.
there's a lot of fire stations in rural areas that use the metal building.
Pre-engineered buildings.
Because it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, we talked about one time, adding to the back of that building coming this way, with, you know, we talked a lot of different concepts.
Yeah,
We found out the metal building, and I think that $5 million building, or the one before it,
It was a metal,
was a metal building.
The one end of it was, and then the end with the dorms and the offices down
Right.
below, that was wood frame probably.
You bet, yeah. So, yeah, that's a good idea, and that's
Yeah.
the way to go.
I think so.
That building's cheap, but your tenant improvements, that's where you spend.
Well, it's kind of like buying something, if you want to buy something for your boat, it's marine, so they jack up the price. You want to build something that's fire
Yeah,
and emergency
yeah,
services,
yeah.
jacks up the price.
Those pre-engineered buildings now, I mean, there's churches that are building pre-engineered buildings for their church, and it's all beautiful looking when it's done.
Dollar Generals.
Do we get any funding from urban renewal?
Oh, no.
No, we
No,
done it all up front. That's the only
Yeah.
way we would go for it. Instead of waiting 15 or 20 years to get our money paid to it. The only way we would support urban growth boundaries is got our money up front.
Urban renewal, yeah.
Urban renewal.
Urban,
Well-
yeah, urban renewal.
Isn't that
And that's,
Main, was that, which one's, there was it Broadway then Main?
There's a core down there.
Yeah, I
Part of
mean,
the
we
road.
actually lost our
Yeah, we-
fire taxes on that, didn't we?
Well,
anything
money.
above what we were collecting at that time.
Yeah, okay.
So the extra 3% went to the urban renewal,
Yeah, okay.
that's
Cool.
why we made them give us money up front. I think we got 300,000 plus.
plus the property.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
property.
Yeah.
So there was, when I met with the city, there was something to do with, it had to meet a certain dollar value, and they wouldn't fund any more up to that point. Once it got past that, that changed things. Well, they're surpassing that number now. They thought they weren't there, but the information they provided me showed that they're actually have exceeded that now. So I think there's some money there. It's not a lot. I don't know if it's even 6 figures yet, but it's gotten beyond that. So that's probably just gonna continue to grow.
Yeah.
But I can't remember all the details or examples of it either.
So-
And I don't know, some, when we used to go to our civil service meetings with Sandy, you know, we got stuck in a modular for a couple of years. They struck a deal with the city where they could remodel their fire station with urban renewal funds, so they tore the whole thing down except for one wall. Built a whole
Rebuilt,
new
yeah.
state-of-the-art station.
Yeah, maybe
Urban
this,
renewal fund.
and maybe the city would want to partner with us to do something like that.
I don't know if it's too late.
Well, but I think that's where it's coming back to, though. The district already received property and money up front, so.
Yeah.
Because we'd asked them about that, and they're like, yeah, but we already did this, and it's up to this amount. Well, that's why I say they've gone past
Exceeded it.
that now, but of course, it's not nearly enough to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And that urban growth. or not
Urban renewal,
like you
yeah.
said,
Urban renewal, yeah.
Didn't that only last 12 to 15 years?
Yeah.
And then they had to redo it?
If they want, and in theory, they need to get our agreements on it.
That's right.
So,
Maybe
they still
that's
have
enough.
time.
Maybe that's the time to go after another bite at the apple with it.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing here, I think this is like direction for the chief in a sense, that I think it's important to get a committee together with, internal stakeholders, like some of the career volunteer and maybe from the community to like go forward. I think that we can guide it, but I think it's important to get everybody on the same page. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, we're gonna do what's best for the community and the constituents' taxes, but I think it's important to get viewpoint of folks from the public, our internal stakeholders, the folks that will be working in that building for the next 25 years and our volunteers. I think that's also important.
I don't think that, I think when it comes to funding for it, that's gonna be the big topic. because-
That's kind of okay, so what you just said, I think a different way. I think that's horse before the cart. I think we first try and crack the funding nut.
I think it needs
I-
direction for that.
Yeah,
side.
we gotta figure out how we're gonna fund
And
it.
I'm fine with no matter where it is.
Yeah.
I'm just
We
saying that
need
we
both.
need to do, we need to do it as we're going forward. So
Well, we hired an architect to draw up that last one, right?
we had volunteers involved, career people.
Do we still have all that stuff?
We
I'm
should have
sure.
all the drawings and
Well, I
everything
think
somewhere.
we should try and find that and look at that as a starting point.
Okay.
Not saying that that's what we're gonna do, but see if that does exist. If it does, we can look
Yeah.
at it and see how it would fit our needs now.
There were some drawings.
It did. Yep.
Yeah. We're just gonna suck to go get fuel.
2 or 3 different times we went out and bought, and we had 2 or different friends.
Two, since I was on the board. So we've gone twice. And when we did it 2 different ways, and I don't know which one was the metal with the wood frame offices and this and that, but part of it was metal. And we cut down a lot of money when we did that. So,
Yeah, I'm okay with the metal. They make it look really nice.
Well, the thing I like about it, like with my rental buildings, so you get into it 15 years or so, and you don't like the color, or, it's starting to chalk out, you just remetal it, and it's like new again, so.
I think you can even have them painted,
Yeah, you can, we've messed with that, and yeah, it's just kind of, so, I like the versatility of it, for additions, is what I like.
I think we all know. I can't remember how many new lots that they found, but I think it's 14.
Yeah.
So in part of your packet has
It does.
some of that.
So I've got to run one thing by you, Matt. I know how you feel about this. I'm gonna call it construction excise tax. And I'm not completely against it. But the problem that I see with it is that we run the risk of separating the voters. Meaning that the new lots that were charged that, when if we ever go to a bond, they'll say, hey, wait a minute, we already paid this when we bought our lot. Why do they want to raise it again to get a firehouse? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
They're taking the money and using it for operating.
So-
Yeah.
So for approved developments, you guys don't have this list. I have it, but there were 43 lots approved in 2018. There were 65 lots approved in August of 2019. 404 lots approved in February of 2020. There were 64 approved in April of 2020, but for whatever reason, they did not move forward with that batch. There's 43 approved for 2021. There's 111 plus multifamily lots for potentially 69 apartments approved for 2021. That's Eagle Ridge Phase 1. There's 124 lots approved for Eagle Ridge Phase 2. 102 lots approved in 2021, Dugan Estates Phase 1 and 2. And there's 145 lots approved, 2021, Dugan Estates Phases 3 through 7. And there's 118 square foot lots, single family lots, plus multifamily lots for potentially 96 apartments approved, 2021, Northbrook. So some of these are already well underway. They're building, they're moving forward. But there's a chunk of these that the lots are approved, they haven't started building yet. but
Do you
it's
have,
coming.
do you have a number of how many are moving forward out of all that?
all of them are moving forward, but basically the last two that I listed off are the only ones that are not moving forward at the moment. They're approved, but they're just not.
So how many total lots is there that are moving forward, you know? If you can run the numbers, I'll add it up.
43, 65, 404, 43, 111, 124, and 102.
So that's 892 lots.
And that's not counting the apartments.
Yeah,
427 are on the ones off Deuce Road.
yeah,
Okay, so half of them are over there.
yeah.
Those are lots approved, but not developed.
No, these are the ones moving forward.
Those are the ones that are moving forward. They're working on it. Public
So,
improvements are being done. They're
Let's throw
happening.
Matthew's number that he threw out a couple board meetings ago of $1,400 per lot. $1,248,800. So if we had something like that, that 1,400, like you said, that's what would have came to the district for 21.
Right.
And there's the builder's gonna add that to the price of the property.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we will.
Does that get assessed when they're get the
Permit.
construction permit?
Yeah.
And then we got to go a different direction too. That's just our city. So we have our city and we have our district.
Right.
So we have to also, would have to look at the new construction in our district, not just our city. So then we'd have to get with Clackamas County
Mhm.
to,
See if the city gets that.
Has anybody reached out to Clackamas County to see what's been
Ordinance.
built?
No, we haven't gotten that far with it. So the city, if we implemented something like this, the city would collect those fees for us. And then I asked about administration fees. If, you know, typically you'll see like a 1.5% charge or something.
Yeah.
They're not saying for sure yes or no, but there's really leaning towards it. We probably wouldn't charge it. We would just do it type of thing. But the county, I don't know. I'd
Yeah.
have to dig into that one.
I mean, there's going to be more growth in the city than there is the county,
Sure.
obviously, but.
The, you know,
Right,
the-
but from an equity standpoint, if you're doing it in the city, you gotta
Oh,
make.
you have to. You
Yeah,
have
I
to.
mean-
Well, as a district, we'd have to impose it
In the
for the entire
district,
district. We
district-wide.
can't just pick and choose which part we're going.
Can you just tell the county you want to do this? and assess this
That's
fee?
really where it comes down to. So we have to go through the state. And that's starting to get more into detail of how to do it. And the documents are rather large for this stuff and you're getting into the ORSs, but we would have to pass a resolution and then what it's gonna be. You have to itemize what it's actually gonna go for. It has to be specific.
So it can be earmarked to a new firehouse.
It almost has to be.
That's the one, only way I would get on board, to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't just decide you're gonna do it for
No,
anything.
no, no.
The school districts.
Not like
got
the
a number of
schools.
those in there, but
Yeah,
I think that's only fair.
Yeah.
Right. I think you guys have that list.
So if we were
So
to
this
do
list-
this,
the
This list
SDC
here has
list,
it,
the
yeah.
SDC list.
That's showing you what the different places are charging and it's listing where it's supposed to go. And where the projects are that are using it.
Yeah, I was quite shocked at how many dollars was going to the phase 3 of Wade Creek.
oh, that's that whole, the 857,000 over there.
Yeah.
Wow,
For a park.
wow.
There was a business that was matching dollar for dollar. If you wanted to donate $1 or $5, I forget the name of the business, but they would add to that
All right.
Yeah.
to help finish phase 3.
So SDCs are an option for funding. I don't know if it's gonna get you there. Actually, I don't think it's gonna get you there for what you need to do, but it definitely would help offset.
So I think it's 3 fronts. It's us being smart with the money we have, putting it into the account. It's doing some sort of what I call construction excise tax and a bond. But the only way I think we're gonna get the community to buy into a bond is if we can show them that, hey,
We have this much money.
We need this and we've been planning for this.
And I think though, with what we have for capital, replacement, what we're seeing in growth and what we're taking in revenue, cost of doing business, inflation, all that kind of stuff. I don't think you're gonna have extra money to put aside for another station. I think you're gonna have money to deal with the current system that you have in place, which is your people, your apparatus and all your other capital items, day-to-day business. I think that if you start
So-
dipping into that, you're hurting yourself down the road to where you're gonna struggle just to maintain what you're
The
doing.
only thing
day-to-day.
is though, that what you just said is a little bit scary is we keep this and we do that. Well, then we, in a sense, kind of have double cost, BGE, you know, all that stuff, right? So are we gonna have the money to be able to even keep both those?
Well, that's just it. I mean, you
Yeah.
start looking at those things. I guess what I'm getting at is if you start eating into what you're bringing in extra, which is all our growth that contributes to our budget growing.
But
I think you're eating away at what's helping you down the road. We take in $300,000 extra, but it cost us an extra $200,000 from what it was the year before. Okay, we carry over 100,000, so we put that into our savings account for capital.
Yeah.
But that's got to go down the road towards buying a new fire engine in 10 years.
Yeah.
See where I'm going with that?
But if you got it in capital, we can make the decision. The main thing is getting it in the capital account.
Right.
We can decide what we're gonna do with it as needed.
Well,
But
no,
if we
'cause
don't put it in the capital account, then
I think in the budget process, you're itemizing what that capital goes to. So I mean, we are in part of the whole budget thing. So you've got to decide if you're wanting to do a capital outlay for a new station or something like that. And whether it's a very little, it's still showing to the public that you're saving money. So
I mean,
Yeah, but so that continues, that doesn't change, and we can keep trying to put more and more into that, which we should. But I don't see that fund being
Not
used
funding.
to finance a new building. It's gonna have to be to finance your continued capital that you currently have. That's just my outlook on it. I mean, I could be way off on this, but I've seen other departments do it where they do it that way. They save money for capital because they're, trying to plan for the next fire engine and all that kind of stuff. But then they get a chunk there. And so they go, well, we can add this many people and we can add this over here. And so pretty soon they've eaten into that.
well,
Now we need our engine. We can't do it,
well, see, that's the thing that it's like our own households. If we have extra money in the bank, we'll always find something to spend that money on. If we have it earmarked or set aside for something where it's out of that account, then
right,
that's, like when I've done all the industrial buildings. First, number one thing was obviously looking at ROI, but controlling costs through the construction. We lose a lot of control when we go into building a new firehouse. I mean, there's just overruns and, prevailing wage and everything else. We just lose a lot of those controls. That's what's scary for me personally. It's almost like you need to sell that piece of land to somebody, have them build it turnkey and then buy the whole thing turnkey at a cheaper rate. So
Well, I'd like to throw something out here that's, I don't feel too confident about it. But what if we got a 20-year mortgage and build a station and maybe paid $60,000 one payment a year or something like that? I don't know what it is.
it'd be more than that.
Those are options.
I'm just throwing.
Yeah,
it out
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So
But I know the volunteer departments are private, volunteer fire departments back east. They do 30-year
So-
mortgages and they do fundraisers all year long.
So Columbia River did that for their training center. They financed their training center over 25 years or something like that. But they did it just before the recession in 08, which hurt. But looking ahead from that, it probably was a great idea at the time, but when I was there, it was a terrible idea because we had no money for capital. That was their capital savings every year. That's what went to that payment. And they're stuck with that for at least another 10 years.
That's why I just wanted to throw that out as a long shot.
Well,
something to think about, but it's also kind of iffy because, I think here in the next 5 years, I think we're gonna have, or next year, with inflation, this war going on, and seeing the stock market dropping as far as it did. And
My gut's telling me the same thing, that there
that's
is,
what I'm
there is a
feeling.
correction
We're gonna
coming.
take a hit here in the next 2 or 3 years. maybe.
well, maybe that's not the time to build.
It is actually, the last recession, 08, is when I redid my house. And one of the reasons why is construction materials were so cheap and labor was so cheap.
Yeah, that's something you gotta.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even with the inflation,
Oh, you bet. Well, that was in 08, the 08 recession we had.
right?
So, yeah,
I don't know, that's unfortunate.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
Interest rates are cheap now too.
Yeah,
yeah.
If you're
For a
borrowing
while.
at 3.5%.
that's not gonna
Inflation-
hold.
They're gonna raise it this next month.
5%.
Right.
Well, and that's the deal. In my opinion, we're a year behind raising interest rates. I mean, that, we should have done it a year ago. That may have controlled some of this inflation we're having. I mean, that's the one tool that they really have to control inflation is how cheap money is. When you have too many dollars chasing too few goods, you know, if you take some of the dollars out, well, then.
I know, I'm not gonna be here long enough to buy your next Type 1 engine. That's not on my plan, but it is on my plan to set it up for the next guy that does take my place. to
And
do
I
that.
appreciate that. I mean, that's thinking of the future, and that's what we're all doing here, is we're thinking of the future of this district, you know, we gotta make sure that it's here in
So that's
50 years.
just where my hesitancy comes
Yep.
from, to put money away for capital to try and push
Yeah.
towards the building.
The last thing we want to do is get in the position that we just came from,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
and,
Absolutely.
you know, but we're also in a bad position now with where we're at with not being able to sleep everybody, so. Can we add bunk beds or triple beds or?
We have a bunk bed, or actually we have a couple bunk beds already. So.
Yeah, yeah. Can we go 3 levels in there? You
Yeah,
know, let me show you some submarine video I've seen.
we're getting creative, you know, with how we staff overnight, things like
Yeah.
that. That's part of why we're staffing George so often, is because we have the ability to send
And,
people up there.
and I think we should. I mean, obviously we should. So maybe we ought to figure out what volunteers we have live in district that have shops at their houses. They just take the engine home and park it in their shop, sleep in their own bed.
So yeah, this is a big topic. It's not something we're gonna figure out overnight by any means, but we gotta start somewhere, and here we are.
For me, I feel it's one of our largest liabilities. I mean, I really feel that way.
Something we need to do
Yeah. It's just
earlier
figuring out
rather than later.
how we're gonna do it. But for me, building that war chest is the first step. You know, some sort of savings toward that is the first step. So,
And we have a lot more revenue coming in.
yeah,
So,
you can't do anything if you don't have the dollars to do it.
right.
You may not have enough dollars to do it, but at least you have something that you're contributing to. It's like a retirement plan. You know, do you put the minimum in or you put the maximum in, you know?
That's the great part about where we're sitting financially. I mean, the growth is there, the assessed value is good. I mean, we're in a good spot to keep doing what we're doing and expand, you know, those services and things like that. We're just lacking on the facility side of things. That's the hard piece that we have to.
Well, I do know, you know, going back, and John, you could, you know, weigh in, but you realize that we made some decisions on hiring and so on. And what happened was we increased the amount of career people that were on shift per day. And because of the rising costs of the union contracts,
Yeah.
bargaining contracts, and then the volunteers were dwindling away. And that's, in my opinion, we've pulled out of that now with the revenue coming in, but we didn't even have the volunteer support because our administration at that time were driving people away, like literally
Yeah.
making it impossible for people. And we didn't know what was going on. We were kept in the dark. Well, it was just a simple excuse that, oh, there's just nobody volunteers anymore. You know what I mean? Well, look at the volunteers we have now. And so one of the things that we have to be careful is we don't go down the same path that we went down before, where the revenue and the cost of doing business now collide, and now we're in the red,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So we were going down that path, and that's kind of what drove for some of us on the board to go towards the merger. And so now we've pulled out from that, but I think we should be very careful that we don't go down the path that we were going down before, that we learn from it, and that we make sure that we really balance what we're spending the money on, saving money and taking care of our people, which we didn't do a very good job with the volunteers. So.
And I would add to that, I always get concerned. Right now, we've got good career staff and
Culture, good culture.
we've got a good culture. Everybody's a team here. But over the years, it's been my experience, the more career guys that come in, they tend to want to push the volunteers out. We don't have that right now, but we had it in the past.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen it happen in District 1 early on when we created District 1.
It's just human nature, you know?
So as long as we got the volunteers and keep that team at.
Yeah, that's on the priority list, and it's working out really well so far.
I know it is.
We're gonna get to a point where we're gonna have to add some staff, that's just what it is. To maintain the volunteers for that is part of it, we get a lot of new volunteers in, but they can't drive yet. We don't have officers to run them and all that kind of thing. But there's some different, staffing models that go with that support adding people down the road. But as far as expenses and income colliding, like I said, we're sitting in a really good spot. We're at about 60% of our income is spent on people, which is a really good number. When you start hitting the 80% mark and above, you got problems. And that's where every district gets themselves in trouble. There's a lot of them out there running around doing business with 90-95% of their income is spent on people, and you can't sustain that. It's just
We've
not
always
reasonable.
maintained ours right around 58, 60% for years.
Yeah, 70's probably about right. 75, I'd start going, we're gonna have, we're getting there.
I'd hate to
But,
see some.
60 is a really good number. I'd be, like I said, I'd be comfortable with 70. I don't think I'd care to go much beyond that.
Yeah, I want to keep it down to 60. I mean, this is the thing. All I know is that we went down a path, and it's only after looking back that we need to be very hesitant on where we go forward, and especially with staff. I mean, obviously, you're going to make a recommendation to the board with your staff and so on. And if the need's there and it could be proven and it's financially sound, then it's okay.
Yeah, it's
But
dictated by finance call volume.
Right.
So
Right now, we're in this spot.
where are we at with thinking of adding $1 per lot? I mean, I feel like we need to discuss that a little bit and figure out if we're gonna go that way or not. Last year, we gave up $1.25 million. That could have been put into the budget to fund our new firehouse.
Well, I think there's healthy discussion here to put it as an agenda item on the next board meeting. I think that's where we can really dive into it and then, give some marching orders for the chief to go forward and see what can be done.
Do you have the resources between now and next board meeting to get with the county and find out what other permits there were in our district?
Yeah, we could probably figure that out.
I don't know if you would talk to planning or not.
Yeah, I think we can find out.
There's a guy.
We have a
Glenn-
contact over
Okay,
there.
so yeah, Glenn Hamburg is in planning. Estacada used to contract with Clackamas County for planning before we got Taylor.
Mhm.
So you could get a hold of Glenn Hamburg, which I have his number, and I can give it to you, and he could at least point you in the right direction to go. There's also, I can't remember Deidre's last name. Deidre Landon. She used to work for the city of Estacada. I wish that Randy Ely and her never left,
Yeah, I know.
to be honest with you.
Yeah, we work with a couple of the people from the building department with the county, obviously for inspections and things like that.
Yeah.
So we've got good contacts.
Okay.
It's just a matter of pursuing it.
So if we're gonna have a healthy discussion about it, we can't just look at what the city done, we have to look at what the whole
The
district.
whole district, and you
Yes.
need to see the process, how it's guided, there's got to be an ORS, and if there's not, there's got to be a county pathway, and we need to know what that is.
So-
There's an ORS, I've got that.
Okay.
For me, what it is looking at what the city done, look at what the county done. And we assess whatever dollars per lot. Obviously, the old farmer adage, pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. So if you go too much, you're gonna be in a hog and you're gonna get slaughtered.
Right.
So, we have to look at it. We have our needs of what we want to accomplish. But everybody else has needs and what they want to accomplish too. We want to make sure that we're not putting such a burden on them that they're.
Well, we don't want to drive people away. I mean,
Well, that's
this is the
exactly
other
it, and
part.
that's been my fear is that we do this.
Well, but you do it at an amount that the builders can tolerate.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I came from Happy Valley and the last big up run, it was the largest growing city in Oregon. I moved out here because I didn't want to ever live in the largest or fastest city, growing city in Oregon, and then Estacada became it. But when the 08 recession hit, Happy Valley was the highest mortgage or foreclosure in the state. You know, if you can increase the cost of building a little bit, that brings the people that can afford it. So maybe we wouldn't hit the highest foreclosure rate in the state also. So there's that way of looking at it too. If you understand what I'm saying there. So,
Well, we need to be able to justify what we're doing.
yes,
And if somebody's, if we're just throwing a number out there, $1,400.
I kind of feel like that's what we're doing.
Arbitrary.
Yeah.
well, no, that number was a number that Matthew.
Yo,
threw out
he's just
3 board
mentioning
meetings
a
ago.
number, right?
We have-
We need to have a little bit of facts, you know. if
We
say,
need to have
"Hey,
some-
Our goal is to build up $2 million for a new station. We already have the land. And we estimate that there's gonna be 4,000 houses in
Yeah,
the
we-
next 5 years. And if we accept S amount, we're gonna have 85% of it, and we'll only have a 15% bond. We need to have.
We have to have some data to back up what we do.
I agree.
We need to think about the person that walks
Yeah.
up to us on the sidewalk here in town and say, what the heck were you guys thinking? You know, we need to be able to have something to say to them. So,
I'm okay with moving forward, looking at it. And down the road, if we get a lot of heavy pushback, we'll have to back off.
so let's discuss the whole dynamics here of some of the data that we would need. We would roughly need to know what we wanted to build was gonna cost, which is not gonna exactly be easy to do. Unless we can pull that data out from the last study we did and, you know, maybe somehow get it requoted. If it fits our needs, that would be a good starting point. And then figuring out a time frame as to when we wanted to actually start construction type thing. What else do we have to put in there? And we gotta figure out what the assessment would be. So cost of construction and the time frame that we would need is probably the two biggest.
And how much growth is projected in the next 10 years or
And
whatever?
that's a wild card because, you know.
Right, but that's,
It could all stop tomorrow.
So
Yeah,
the
6
document I
months.
sent you guys by email, it's 34 pages
Yeah,
long,
yep.
but it has a lot of that in there. as
I
far as
read
what
that,
we project.
yep.
Yeah. But it's just projection, and that's just it.
So who, I can't remember who put that projection together. Was that our city?
No.
PSU,
Yeah, I was gonna say
Okay.
one of the universities.
Okay,
it's a pretty good study. I read through it
yeah.
and it's got a lot of
just-
facts.
I have a hard time with that kind of stuff because it's, I don't always consider it true data compiled because it hasn't happened yet. It's somebody that is taking kind of an educated guess as to
Right.
what's gonna happen.
Well, I don't think anything's foolproof.
Well, that's true.
I mean, but it's this starting point, you
Yeah.
know?
But we have to look at that and then look at what's happened in the past to see if we really agree with.
But you know, too, it's one of those you could, I mean, if we had a target, what we wanted for per lot, per square foot lot, however that worked out. And we had a target dollar figure we wanted by this
This
time,
yes.
then I think that gives us a good idea of where we
Where
want
we're
to go
going.
with it.
Yeah.
Well, it's all one of those, I mean, we just keep building it and building it, and if we get to that point and go, yeah, we just don't have enough, we have to keep going, then we just keep stashing that money away, but.
And I think that maybe we need to look at the modular side of things. We know we have needs for beds. You know, we could say, we're gonna bite this off in 2 chunks. We're gonna build 50% of our new firehouse at this time. And then in another whatever years, we're gonna finish the other, part. You know, I see it as sleeping quarters, office admin, and whatever number of bays we could get by with. We're still keeping this with trucks in the bays. And then we would eventually move to, the thing that I don't like about this whole concept is if we came in here and this was a completely clean slate with that road gone, the engineering would be completely different than what we're gonna do. It would give us more opportunity. We're kind of confined with what we have right now. We really only have from the training that way in here, because we have our office admin and our firehouse here now. So that limits us as to what we can kind of start. We can't tear this down and tear that down and start a new firehouse. We still have to have operations.
No,
going.
that's a
Can we take
plus.
the training center and put it back here on this open grass?
That
area
shouldn't
and
be
go
too
down
hard
to
of a
the
problem.
playground?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all mobile over there.
yeah.
It's not-
Hook up with a
not really
semi and
fixed.
move it. Yeah,
It's like-
yeah,
No, we're fortunate in that aspect that we have the property already here.
yeah.
And I mean, yeah, you would keep this all intact just to continue daily operations while the project goes on. It's a luxury most don't have. It's a
Yeah.
good spot to be.
Yeah.
I still look.
It might be where you just go build a big shell over there, keep this operating with your funds and so you can park apparatus there. and
But that
then
doesn't help
build
our
it.
sleeping though.
Yeah.
That's our biggest liability is our sleeping.
I still think we should look at, and we can keep adding on that building coming this way. And we can still leave the admin there if we want to do, or we can move this that way.
The only issue I have with,
And leave that for training. It's all set up. We got a propane tank, a big tank over there.
Yeah,
The
but
only-
we can move that just as easy as this
Yeah.
building.
I know
the only
that-
issue I have with that, what you just said, is what we're going through right now with the sewer line over there. It's not just what's above the floor, it's also what's below the floor that we're having problems with. I'm sure that the water that goes in there is all iron pipe, you know, because it's built in the what, sixties?
And that was supposed to be taken care of. We talked about that. That was supposed to be taken care of 5-6 years ago. We knew about that deal.
Well, no, you're thinking of the cast iron for the sewer,
Yeah. but
yeah.
the
So,
water too, I understand.
I don't know. I can't remember if we did anything with the water or not.
yeah,
Above ground.
well, I don't know, when it's
The
concrete,
only thing left was that sewer pipe, if I remember right.
yeah,
You're talking they replaced water lines underneath the
Yeah.
slab?
I don't know
Did
how
they?
they would do that.
Somehow they went around it.
I'm
Really?
not sure.
Maybe they plumbed it in through the walls or whatever, yeah.
It'd be
It's
easy enough
just,
to look and see.
yeah, I mean, you reach a point where a building, see, that's the other thing too, is that you can add on whatever you want, you still end up with a 1960s building at one side of it.
But we put over $400,000 in it.
Yeah. That was mainly seismic, wasn't it? Or was that,
Well, we
I think a
remodeled the,
remodel, yeah.
Dormitory,
yeah,
we put an office in for the lieutenant, the officer on duty.
Yeah.
Officers in, computer room for the career staff. Put in a new bathroom and shower, so we got 2 of them now.
so let me ask a question, that computer room,
Did the quick kitchen.
Yeah.
all of that.
is that for the career staff to use while they're just sitting here?
That's career and
Both.
volunteer
Both.
both use it. They're doing reports, students are doing homework. It's-
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
it's-
You need it. You
It's
need it.
very well
Well, I
used.
was just wondering if we could,
It seemed big to me when
downsize
we
that
came
if-
in, but
yeah,
it's
it-
it's
doesn't
not.
mean-
It's
I was
actually, it's packed. most of
yeah,
the
I
time.
was wondering if we could downsize that by half and throw a dorm in.
It's
there.
actually a reason for some of our volunteers to come down.
Yeah, yeah,
It's where the dorm originally was.
yeah,
Right.
okay.
Where that's at.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's figuring out our needs and figuring out,
I just, we put so much
Dollars.
money into that building. Actually, I think it's closer to 500, 600.
Yeah.
We got a grant for 400,000. I think we put a couple $100,000 ourselves.
Another grant.
I would think that it
800
would be
something.
easy to build off of it,
No.
you know, and come this way with more revised.
we'd have power issues, our meter and everything's right there on that one
800, a
wall.
little over 800.
So that's all
grand.
going to be relocated.
I think somehow we keep that building.
Keep it.
Yeah, we put
Uh,
so much
that's-
money into
that's-
it.
I'm just wondering if, like what John says, come this
Yeah,
direction.
come off of it.
And because right now you could take the parking area and you could build off of it, you know, maybe have a phased approach, like what you were saying with the
only
metal.
Thing is, though, we have to make sure if we were to go that direction, that is not gonna hurt the growth, that is gonna satisfy the growth of our community in the next 20, 30 years. Last thing we wanna do is do that,
Right.
and then in 15, 20 years, say, hey, we're in trouble again.
Right.
So,
And I think of this too, adding on to that. Would be cheaper than building a whole new station, and then we might have to put a substation out there to the north and east someday. Going out that way.
Sometimes adding on the buildings, old buildings is more expensive. than-
it is, and
I've done.
I've done it a few times, I'm doing it right now. I would have been better off just knocking the whole thing down and starting over.
I would shy away from it.
I absolutely would too.
Put in the last 5 years,
You s-
$800,000.
Yeah, but I mean, We don't even have the money yet to do it, but that's serving our needs right now. It's a good building, but like parking, for example, if you did something over there and built a shell that you could park and then had it like a flex industrial space where you could, if you wanted to move the offices over there eventually, or you wanted to do whatever, and then 20 years knock that out if it need be. then
Yeah.
fine.
Well, we can go down the path of, we build something, we build it for the future, or we can band-aid. I mean, that's really
So,
where it's at.
I would really like to see what the architect drew up.
Mhm.
If we could
We
find
can
that,
find that.
that'd be
yeah.
awesome
Yeah.
to look at
It's gotta
that.
be around here somewhere.
Yeah,
Well,
I would love to
there
see
should
that.
be, there should be hard copies. I saw drawings roll up in here before you moved all that stuff out of there.
Yeah, that's why I say it's here somewhere.
Yeah.
Alan may know
Could have
where
it
it's
elec-
at, 'cause he
We
touched
could
all
have it
that stuff.
electronically in PDFs in the full computer somewhere.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, that would be
Whoa,
an idea to get started.
are they?
Yeah, it's cardiac arrest, respiratory arrest.
Let me check with,
Okay.
Mine didn't come up because I've got an airplane mode.
One thing that hasn't been mentioned is the school districts in the same boat as that. So, you know.
Or the
all
new-
this growth.
Well, the city is too, with the sewage treatment plant and everything else. So,
They're, you know, they're gonna have to go off their bond eventually. if we have to do
Yeah.
Well, that's where their SDCs are, or their sewer SDCs are supposed to handle their wastewater facility.
yeah, that's not gonna happen.
It's- There's not a lot of money there. for
Do you
that.
know where have you heard where they want to put it?
No.
Yeah.
All the way down in Folsom?
Well, and off the end of the industrial park down there.
No. The last deal I seen released, they want to go all the way to Folsom,
Okay. Wow.
down Mike Platt's area,
So,
because it all slopes that way.
yeah,
So
that's a long way.
that's an awful long ways. And I have a feeling they're gonna use the old rail line to get there.
Oh,
But
Yeah, those are expensive projects.
what is it, over $1 million for the facility plan? That's just the plan. No, I think looking at what the architects did before, if we could find that is a starting point. No sense in reinventing the wheel. Let's look at the wheel that's already been reinvented and see what needs that fills. And then, you know, they'd already figured it for this area.
Right.
So,
Ken's got me digging for it right now.
I think
You find it in PDF, I can print it for you at home.
ask Lashbrook, he touched everything that was in there. We were telling him, look for this, look for this, look
Alright.
for our drafting sites. And then he called, I found the drafting site. Oh, great.
There's a lot of hiding spots in the two buildings.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Totally.
He's younger and more agile.
Oh, that's out of the,
Do they live in our district?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
both of them do.
I didn't know that.
Last road in her district in South Springfield,
Oh, okay.
and she's retiring in May.
Is she?
All right. Well, I think this is healthy discussion. I mean,
I mean,
totally.
this is the position we're in. We can sit here and ignore it, or we can figure a pathway forward. And it may not be the perfect pathway forward. It may not put us where we want to be at the time we want to be, but you can't just continue to ignore it.
Yeah, you gotta move forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
New territory for me.
So do you guys, in addition, do you guys want the station funding as a discussion point at the next board meeting?
Depending what data we get.
Right. So why don't we just depend on what you get and you let me know, and then I'll poll everybody.
Yeah, so let's just discuss this for a minute. I think knowing total new housing in our district, you know, not just the city, the total district is needed. It would be nice to have some idea of a rough estimate of what a new facility would cost. I know we can't just call somebody and get a quote. That's why I think if we could find that architecture stuff, you know, I'm not saying we're gonna use the bid from that, but we can at least look at the architecture. I'd be curious to see what the two of you thought of what was designed then as to how it would fit our needs now and 10 years from now. You know, if were you on the board when that was done?
No, no,
So you
but
haven't seen
I
it?
was here. I remember looking at it. I
So
remember
do
looking
you
at the
remember much
plans
about
and
it?
stuff.
I would.
I'm sure I have an email
Okay.
with the design on it.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, if we're looking at staying in this geographic location, that was designed
So-
for here. So,
So remember on one of them that we failed with the bond, one of the feedback that we received from people in the community, because we went out and tried to figure out, because we really delivered a really good message. And part of it was we were putting it up the highway and out of the city center. And there were a bunch of people that think that the fire station needs to be in the city center.
Yeah.
It was over on River Mill,
Right,
remember? But that was a long time.
so was
Right.
that the first one or the second one?
first one.
That was
Okay,
one of the first
so
ones,
the,
yeah.
so you. I could.
The second one is the one with the metal that we were gonna build right here. And it was going this way so that we could keep the station open.
Okay, so it was not a new facility put over there on the other lot.
No, we've
Okay.
never done anything
Crap.
with a building.
So
over
I guess
there.
what we'd have to do is look at what was proposed at River Mill and see how that would fit on the piece of property we have
Yep.
here.
And look at the one that was planned across the road
Here.
here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just think that I was asked to support it. So I asked feedback from the community, you know, what did you vote? Well, why not? Because it was within the code of the hall.
See, and that's the other thing too. You look at the LDS concept or the Jehovah Witness. So they have however many people are in their circle for whatever area. They have a building and a contractor and everything already set for that. They just show up, permits are in place, and boom, they go. 30 days later, it's done. It don't matter what they want. That's what they're going to get. So you see all these new schools. I don't know why schools have to have constantly all this different architecture and all this everything else and
15
whatnot.
different roof pitches.
Exactly.
on,
And I mean, we want something that's aesthetic appealing. Obviously, we have a budget we have to stay within too. So,
We don't need custom. We just need a.
yeah, I mean, I could see the, at one end of it, the dormitories and the office admin and everything, having some architecture, not over the top, but having some architecture. But where the trucks go and the shop and all that is all, you know, metal. You know, we watch how tall our roofs are, so we're not having to pay that much extra to heat everything and,
Okay.
You go probably to tons of fire stations around. But has there been one that you'd be like, both you guys? Like, okay, this would be a good fit for Estacada. That was recent. Where you could say, hey, can I steal your plans and just.
you can't
give
do
it-
that.
No, I'm not stealing.
No,
I'm
yeah,
not-
but just-
hear me out.
No, I mean, they're like
Talk to a
copyrighted.
general and
Yeah.
say, hey, can you just look these over for half an hour and give me a budgetary figure of what
Yeah.
you think it would
We
be?
could do that, yeah.
$50 a square foot or $200.
There was I can't remember, John may,
Or
John may remember.
$2,000 a square.
We
foot.
did-
It's like $150
we did go
square foot
travel
built house
to-
right now.
another fire department and look
150.
at their station
A foot.
and
For a
use
house.
that
For a house.
as what we were.
So there's a conference coming up. I wouldn't be able to go to it, but there is a station design conference coming up where it does just that.
Really?
It's one of those where you look at different designs, different architecture, all
Really?
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I'd go to that.
Yeah, I would too.
I think it's in May. I could look it up and let you know if anybody was interested.
Yeah, I would
It's
definitely
not in
be
the area.
interested.
I want to say it's down south maybe, but
That's fine.
it's a couple days and for what we're doing,
Yeah,
probably really helpful.
Mhm.
yeah,
If we're looking at station designs and what's out there and what's available.
yeah.
They keep sending me stuff by email and I'm like, I'm interested.
And it's a couple day conference.
I believe so, yeah.
So why don't we just send 2 or so board directors
Yeah.
with your team so that we have buy-in from the board level and then take a look at it.
Yeah, it looked, reading through what they have, it looks like it'd be worthwhile
Mhm.
to support this kind of discussion.
You bet.
I mean, you're gonna see everything from the fanciest, coolest to probably the lowest budget. I mean, it's all gonna be there.
Yeah,
It's
you're-
like going to a fire equipment show, you know?
yeah, you'll see the this is the fire department you put in an all voluntary deal where they have 150 people live in that town.
Right.
Yeah, you know, to,
Something like that
Something
might
for
be
us.
really helpful.
Yeah.
Give you some insight as far as what's out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I mean, you've built buildings before. I've
Yeah.
been in this construction industry for
Yeah.
25 years.
yeah.
If we
Building buildings.
discuss this in our next meeting, you know, and all I've heard so far, I haven't heard the details, that, you know, yes, we could charge the SDC fees to people in the city of Estacada, Blackness County. But how much? Does it start at a penny a square foot and go up to 10 cents,
Or is it per lot or,
So just what I looked at so looking at stations that are out there, substation, $6 million, new headquarters, $12 million. So as far as SDCs go, if you figure all these houses are 2,000 square foot home, you would have to charge $550 a square foot, which would come out to $11,000 a home, and you would need 545 of them to make $6 million. And we're talking about it, well, just in a year's time.
I think that's too big of a bite.
Well, it is, but
Yeah.
the point of that being that you can break that down.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you could figure out if you will cut it in half. Okay. well,
So
we just sell it
for that new facility, you said how much? Full facility,
at 12 million.
12 million. And you feel that you can say that that would fit our needs
Yeah, actually,
beyond our
it's
needs?
probably more like 13 million with inflation costs and everything.
Okay,
else, but
so
still.
let's go to 13 million.
But you're looking at the full meal deal at that. I mean,
Yeah.
All the bays you're gonna need, all the
Yeah.
sleeping quarters, the meeting rooms, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. So I'd say you can scale down from there, but I don't know what the bulk of the cost is other than labor. You know, I don't know how much more it costs to add an extra bay, you know, things like that.
It's primarily labor because prevailing wage is what it is. You gotta figure if the plumber that's in town here is having to charge $80, or paying a guy $80, he's gotta be charging 175. So where usually a shop rate would be, I think, 105.
Adios. Good job.
Would be 105, you know?
But to our advantage is we have property here. so
Yes,
it's
we already
mine
have an
too.
asset that we own.
And utilities exist, so we're
Yes.
not having to do,
Yes.
so that's gotta take out a chunk, but I don't know if it's that big. of a
Yeah.
chunk.
Yeah, so that land is part of that 13 million then?
Yeah. that's
Oh,
the
it
whole-
is?
That's the
Okay.
whole start to
Okay.
finish, bare ground, nothing there.
Okay,
So I feel like you can probably cut it down from there, but that's just looking at other departments that are presently building or looking to build.
so the thing that I worry about is, say we were to do something there, it's almost positioned the wrong way. It's 90 degrees off for response getting out to 224. Figuring out how we would overcome that. See what I'm saying? You say we get the road back. How do we position, it? How many bays are you thinking? Are you thinking 6 bays, 7 bays?
You think you're 6 or
Eight?
7, and then
Okay.
you're probably too deep.
And we know that those bays gotta be at least 14 feet wide.
Right.
So. You're talking 112 feet just for apparatus. So then you gotta figure out how you're gonna position that for future growth. To add another couple bays, because we don't wanna lock ourselves into not being able to do that. But then also figure out how we're gonna do the admin.
Well, I
side
don't
of
know if
things.
I would add more bays.
You'd say substation.
I would substation at that
Okay.
point. That's probably where you would just go 6.
How many bays do we have now?
4?
Got more than 4.
Oh, we have 5.
Not being utilized because it's not maintenance made.
Right.
basically.
Well, we have, how many face the highway? Isn't there 5 there? Okay, so we have 5
One on-
there, and then we actually
one
have
on
2 on the
2
side
on the
here.
side,
So we actually have 7.
but these are only one apparatus deep.
That's true.
If you did
Oh, so
6
you're
bays,
thinking a double apparatus?
Yeah, if you
like
go too-
Woodburn is.
Right.
If you go too wide, so they're drive-through basically.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you can double up where you need to, you can limit that.
I think that's what we were doing with this one that we were gonna do here.
And all of them were pointing that direction.
Yeah.
And it gave more
So-
turning radius and it literally the front of it butted up to the building.
Here's what we could do. So we could look at what was gonna be built on River Mill to see if that fits what your guys' needs would be. We could also have Mike plot that into the property we have. Mike Platts, and move it around on that property.
Mhm.
That's what he did for me when I built my last 3 buildings. So I'm sure as a volunteer, he would probably do that rather than full shift. So,
You're trying to take them away from my volunteer time over here?
Well, if this is the largest priority we have, we gotta figure out where we want our asset.
I got a question.
Yeah,
This is kind of, I mean,
go ahead.
it's about the new station. ODOT's moving across from you down in the industrial.
Yes.
park. That is like, I don't know what's gonna happen with that land. But that would be if we could.
So here's what I was told by Matt at the city. He wants that piece, he wants All American Rents, and he wants to try and get Thriftway to move over there. That's what I was told. Matt's gone, Lorenz?
You got-
Really?
You got a different job.
So who replaced him?
I don't know if they have one yet or not.
Really?
He went to Wilsonville, right?
Think so.
Yeah, he lives in
Somewhere.
West Lynn, so
Anyways, I'm just throwing that out there if that ever does come.
there is issues with that property, though. It is polluted. I know that for a fact. It's got formaldehyde in it. From the funeral home up the hill. So anyway, yeah, it flowed down. Yeah. So, yeah,
You know, which funeral?
the one up on top of the hill there.
I was like,
I
Bryce
guess
is right.
it's all on the post
Oh, you're
office.
talking
Sounds
Thriftways.
like opportunity.
Thriftways.
Against that hill.
ODOT's currently.
Oh, ODOT's.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So if the city would allow us no SDCs and all that stuff, that'd be huge. I know
They already agreed to it.
Yeah,
I
that's in
know-
writing.
ODOT, when I sold them that piece of property and they put that facility in there, they just hit them. Their SDC for water, because they put like a 4-inch main in, was like $42,000. So,
It's in writing as part of the agreement. They don't charge us SDCs, but they also come in and they terminate the
yeah,
lines.
and they'll
accordingly.
do taps
And
into
it's
the new
not right,
lines.
and it's
Yeah,
not costing us. That's part of
that's
that
good. That's
agreement.
good. Yeah. No, I think that we definitely need to look at all the avenues and we need to really look at this. This, to me, like I said, I feel is our largest liability for the future of this place.
Banks built a really nice, it's a substation, but it's a really nice station. I think it's a 2-bay. You know if that's too deep?
I think it's a pull through. I thought it was 3-bay.
Oh, it's
Now
too
it's
big.
2-bay. Yeah, you're right.
But either way, I
It's
mean, that's
nice.
actually, might be a good example, and I think for what they have, because they do have offices and all that, that might be a good example of just, at that point, you're just adding bays as opposed to the rest of it, but they did a certain amount of it was like community labor and, lumber donated and things along that line to help reduce cost too.
Yeah.
Where was that at?
Thanks.
Thanks. So it's their new Buxton station, 14.
Yeah.
So I don't think I finished with the SDC mechanism. With the city, is there a threshold, like a minimum dollar amount and a maximum dollar amount that we could charge?
That's what I asked, and I didn't get a very good answer. They're basically gave me some places to go look, and they're long documents, and I have to sift through it to see if there's anything that even exists. And I was looking at it from what they're already charging, and if we added on to that, is there like tax compression type of thing? It didn't sound like it, but I didn't get a answer either.
So the other thing too is what are other fire districts doing this?
Yes,
And if-
that I can say, yeah.
Then
I
could we be
could
getting
find out
getting a
what
hold
they're
of a few
doing.
that are similar to us? and find
They're
out
bigger
something?
entities, I believe. I don't think there's, the smaller ones might be doing it, I just don't know.
So you
But most
remember in
places
the-
aren't having the same growth either, so.
You remember in the transition committee meetings we used to have, how Abel was saying that we're absolutely foolish that we're not doing this.
Mhm.
So
Who said that?
Steve Abel,
Interim chief.
our interim chief.
O'Connor.
Or is it typical of most cities or districts to be charging that?
It sounds like it. This
Kidding.
is kind of somewhat of a new world. So when I left Columbia River, they weren't, but they were in the process of, because they got a lot of growth going on. Tualatin Valley's been doing it for a while. Hillsborough doesn't like go tomorrow because they ding Intel like crazy.
Yeah.
They buy stations and apparatus and people with what they're getting out of SDCs from them. But as far as smaller districts, like Woodburn might be a good example. I don't know what they're doing, but they have some pretty significant commercial growth going on. I don't know if Sandy does anything along those lines or if anybody knows. But
So Joe Budge is the fire chief for Woodburn. He's a good friend of mine. If you want me to ask him.
I'll call him up. I know.
Okay.
He's a good guy.
Him and I worked together for many years.
I think that, you know, like Matt's made the comment to me that, you know, it's something that feels we're kind of missing the boat on a little bit. And to be honest with you, if we don't do this, I don't know how we would get there. Like I said, I think it's a three-front approach. It's this, it's a bond, and also us saving money.
Right, and no, you're right. I got the same impression. It's not just go to the voters and say we want
Yeah,
this. It has to be a
can't.
combination of the SDCs, a bond,
They-
and what we can save for it.
In my opinion, they have to see buy-in. You know, even for myself, there has to be buy-in. I mean, it can't be like before where it just went to the bond, you
Yeah,
know.
for a bond, I mean, it's all rough math for me, but I mean, you're looking at probably 40 cents a thousand for some time to come.
Yeah.
You know, which is relatively cheap, but still it's over time, you know.
Yeah, well, and already though, we're what, the second highest millage rate in the county?
We're 240, 247.
240,
I can't
a
remember
little over
what
240.
240. I don't know where I came from. We were 297.
Hoodland I heard is the highest in Clackamas County. We're the second highest. So,
Well, less than Clackamas for within.
I
less
was gonna
than
say,
a
you must have
penny,
been close to
you know.
Clackamas if you were that close to a
Yeah.
merger. Otherwise, it would have never gotten that
Yeah.
close.
It would have been cheaper for the people of Estacada to merge with Clackamas.
for a short time,
For very
but we know
little.
they're gonna have to pass some sort of
Yeah.
levy to keep operating, so,
Well.
yeah.
All right, well, I think it's coming up to 8 o'clock. This has been a healthy discussion. So I think the chief's got some direction to get some facts, and if he gets a hold of me and it sounds like there's enough, we'll have it on the agenda item for next meeting.
See how much I can dig up between now and then.
Okay.
No promises.
Would you forward us,
Just
Miller and I, some.
be
that
careful
information
driving and no snowmobiling
Yeah.
and,
Yeah, they're not letting me
put
do
your
anything
bubble
yet.
suit on and.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, in addition to running the whole department as our CEO, we also need you to now do this, okay?
Oh, okay.
Just one more thing.
Well, I have people, so.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was thinking Joe knows
Yeah.
he's gonna get a piece of this.
That was actually helpful for me to learn roads.
Yeah.
I
that would
looked
be-
at every one of those.
Yeah.
We,
311, I think there
We
were.
do at present have COVID running through the ranks, in the volunteer ranks more than anything. We have quite a few people out, including Cheryl, who just went to the hospital this evening.
Did she really?
I had it,
Wasn't admitted, but.
I had it 3.5 weeks ago. And it ran, and everybody I talked to said, oh, I had it at the same time, you know, so.
Miserable.
It's all
I think
winding
all
down
of us
everywhere
have.
else, and it's ramping up for us.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, but we're getting rid of the masks.
It's good timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Political ploy.
All right,
All right.
any board comments? Concerns,
Nikki had a
okay?
question for Nikki. We haven't said a word all night.
Everything.
So I see that there's gonna be a,
Have you had any experience?
oh, regular board meeting.
We're
Susan,
now
stop
just
recording.
now doing that.
Everybody good?
Yep.
All right, this meeting's adjourned.
So.
Thank you.
Nobody knows.
You know how to use that.
One of the-
I think I would. I mean, I've got one for doing